welcome to another episode of Daddy's Girl. Today I have with me Debika, who I'm so honored to be with today and share the space with, and for you guys to hear her story. Debika and I have become really fast friends. I met her through Manhattan Beach Studios, and she runs a travel agency called A Classic Tours here in the South Bay area in Redondo Beach. And within a 1 month time frame, Debika and I have already planned to go to India together, which I'm very excited about. She's taking an empowerment tour with a group of women and asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said, yes. So that was my first kind of mini intro to Debika. And then when I went to actually meet with you to talk about marketing, she had no idea about my background or history or anything like that. And the first thing out of her mouth was, can I brag to you for a second? And I said, yeah, not knowing what you were going to say next and what was going to happen next. And she brought me into her office, you know, normal office, 4 walls. And one of her walls was dedicated to her dad. And so with that, I would love for you to share what you kind of walked me through when I first went to your office, who your dad was and what it was like being a daddy's girl growing up.
My father was an amazing person, and every woman thinks that her father is her hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't wish to say that my father was the best, but for me, he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot through his lifetimes. He would talk about growing up in a very, very poor family. His father was a doctor, and of course, father never made any money because he was always treating somebody for free in the village. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother had to supplement their income, which made her really mad because she had to figure out how to come up with the money. And the first lesson that I learned from my father was one day he was a child, must have been around 10, 11, and he went for a walk with his father, and he said to his father, we call our fathers Baba. Okay. He said, Baba, will I ever become great in life? And his father looked at a tall tree and he said, Babu, you see that tall tree over there? You can be whatever you want, as tall as you want. Mm. That is for you to decide. Mm. And that was my first introduction to life. It doesn't matter what you want to be. You can be it all. Mm. So coming from that small village, he couldn't speak English, didn't know how to swim. But he heard a story about a Jewish princess in college.
Okay.
So he decided he was going to marry a Jewish woman. And for that, he had to go to England to find this princess, because in India, we don't have that. So when he was in his early 20s, I think he was about 21, 22, he went to Delhi, went to a minister and said, I want to go to England. And he said, sorry, you can't go. Look at the way you're dressed. You can't speak English. You have no table manners. I cannot have you represent India. My father never gave up. He sat outside his office for nearly a month.
Wow.
And in those days, 100 rupees was a lot of money. It's like saying $100.
Okay.
And he took that 100 rupees because the minister wanted to get rid of my father. My father bought a 3rd-class ticket on a ship. He taught himself English from a dictionary.
Wow.
He watched people eat at the dining table and taught himself to use a knife and fork. Wow. And, the table etiquettes. Mm-hmm. He put himself through Lincoln's Inn doing odd jobs of porter at night, different kind of things. While he was walking on the street, an English person said, you're Indian. He goes, yes. He says, well, when we were in India, we British, look what we did to your country. And look at you today, now that the British are not there. My father was very, very insulted. And he was very upset because he was a very patriotic person. Mm-hmm. And at that time, an English woman, her last name was Chadwick. She had just swum the English Channel from England to France. My father decided he was going to swim. He thought, if a woman can do it, why can't a man? Mm. He went to the YMCA. He couldn't afford the lessons, but he watched people swim, and he taught himself how to swim. It took him 7 attempts. He failed all the 6 attempts from England to France, but he succeeded from France to England, which is the hardest part to do. Mm. What I learned from that lesson is to be successful, you're going to have to fall down many, many times. But you can't get up crying and saying, I can't do it. Mm. You have to say, I fell down, something was wrong here, I need to attempt again to see where it went wrong. Mm. And that's what I learned from my father. You never give up.
Wow.
If somebody says no, you just say, of course, there has to be a yes. So in my life, there is no such thing as no.
Wow. And with your father, you had showed me a bunch of pictures.
Yes.
So it was, and walk me through all the different places that he's received accolades and places that he's done his swimming and things like that.
He was the first Indian to have swum the English Channel. He was in the Guinness Book of World Record. He is the first person, the first human being to have swum the 5 continents in one calendar year, which was in 1966.
Wow.
He was very proud of the fact that he swam, his picture was next to Mark Spitz at the Guinness Book of World Record. And so he was there for many years. He swam the English Channel, he swam the Dardanelles, the Pork Straits, the Panama Canal. He swam, there were a couple of other ones. I can't seem to remember them right now, but he did swim all of them.
Wow.
And what was very interesting that I don't know exactly which sea he swam, but when he was going to swim the sea, he asked, is it safe? Are there many sharks there? And he said no. And his best experience with that was he was swimming this particular sea, and there was a whole school of sharks that were following him. And he said it was very interesting to see that he was surrounded by dolphins. And the dolphins protected him.
Wow.
One time they put him in a shark cage, and that impeded his swim. And he didn't like that. And he said from then onwards, he decided no more cages.
Wow.
And that's when he realized that we have a choice in life. We can do whatever we want with life. And when our minds are so powerful, if we decide that the sharks are not going to kill me, they were not going to kill him.
And what was it like? Well, actually, so did he marry a Jewish princess?
He did. He met my mother.
Wow.
And he gives her all the credit for his swims. He said that if it hadn't been for my mother giving him the strength and the encouragement, and at that time, you have to remember, my parents were not rich. They were very poor. And nobody was willing to give my father life insurance. So if anything happened to my father, my mother would not only be a young widow, she would have, at that time, she was pregnant with my eldest sister when he was swimming the English Channel. She would have to raise that child all by herself.
Wow.
So he really admired her for her strength and her unselfishness in allowing him to live his dream.
Wow. And how old were you when he passed away?
You know, it is so foggy, that whole experience. I don't remember that. I must have been in my 30s, late 30s, early 40s, something like that. But it was very traumatic. It was so traumatic because at that time I was waiting for my green card to come through. So when my father was suffering from dementia, I would call home, and what killed me was he couldn't even remember who I was.
Wow.
And this was a man who was very proud of himself.
Sure.
Very well accomplished.
Right.
He taught himself the silk industry. He was number 3 in India.
Wow.
With his silk export. He was known throughout India. If you wanted to come to our home, all you had to say was Mihir Sen, and the taxi driver would bring you to our house. You ask anybody, who is Mihir Sen, and they would tell you. Today you ask, nobody knows.
Wow.
You know, and that's the sad story of his life. I remember for 7 years, I put away all his photographs, and for 7 years, I wouldn't look at his photographs. I was very, very angry for him going through this process and then dying.
Wow. And when did that realization happen that you were angry? Was it when you found out the dementia? Was it the first time he didn't remember you? Was it after he had passed? What was that process like?
It was a very hard process. It was a process where I didn't even want to go back home. The only time I've gone back home was twice because my sister lives in Calcutta. Otherwise, I wouldn't go back.
Wow.
Too many bad memories, too much pain. The whole process, I think it was over time that the anger was building up. But I didn't realize how angry I was till I think it was the 7th year when I finally had the courage to look at his photograph. And it was the first time I was alone, and I broke down and I cried.
Wow.
And I really, really cried. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself.
And what lessons, what abilities, what perspectives do you have now on life that you feel like your dad equipped you with or that you learned from him?
2 very important lessons. There's no such thing as no.
Mm.
Don't believe it. That's a lie. Second lesson is my father would say when he would swim the seas, the tides would be very strong. And what he learned from that is you let the tide pull you in, because at some point the tide is going to be very weak. It's a very spiritual lesson. So when you're up against something, render yourself to it. Release yourself to it. Because at some point it's going to realize whatever that issue is, it's not important. And you'll be able to move on. So why waste your energy?
And what do you most admire about him?
What I most admire about my father is he created magic in our lives. We wanted something, we could go to him, Baba, I need money, it was there. Baba, I want this, it was there. Whatever we wanted, it was there. But he never gave anything to us on a platter. We had to work for it. We were taught that in life, you have to earn everything that you want. And I think another really great lesson he's taught me is to be humble. I always meet and greet people, even if they're cleaning the toilets. I say, good morning, how are you? Are you having a great day? Because you never know, that person could be the president of a country or a company, and you'll meet them.
You're right.
So you want them to remember you, that you treated them well.
Wow. And if your dad was sitting in this chair,
oh my God,
what would you say to him if you had that moment?
You're going to make me cry. I would say thank you so much for being my father. Thank you for choosing me. Every lifetime you have to be my father, because your soul is so enriched.
Wow.
You're far wiser than your time. And even though you were misunderstood by people and you misunderstood yourself, I understood you.
Wow.
And I'm so proud to be your daughter.
Girl, you're gonna make me cry. And I know you shared all the accolades and the progression with his dementia, things like that. What do you want the world to know about his legacy, or about even the legacy that he's created in you?
I want the world to know that it's a shame in India nobody knows who Mihir Sen is. It's a shame. And my sister in our small ways are trying to recreate a name for himself. We want India to recognize him, that it's not all about movie stars and cricketers. It's about the little people who came from nothing and did something for India and put them back on the map. The legacy he's left in me has taught me that I had dyslexia. I couldn't read or write till I was in the 6th grade. I couldn't even speak English. My mother, through her persistence, today I can read and write. My father, through his lessons, I have learned you don't give up. My mother was told that you should get your daughter married, she should cook, she should clean, she should bear children. I did none of that. I own a business today.
Right.
I am very confident in who I am.
Yes.
I read fabulous books that I never thought I would ever read.
Wow.
So it's a gift. My parents have given me the best gift of life, is an education, a basic education. And the best education was learning things from their lives, what they shared with me.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think in a past life we were like sisters.
We were sisters.
Yeah, I think
we have the same issues.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nick, you're being dragged into this lifetime.
In our family, I know.
Well, Nick is our therapist
He
now.
is. All right, so we got to wrap this up. All right. Well, okay, pause. Deep breath. Okay, wait. I got to collect myself. Okay. Because I want to cry and I want to laugh and I want to all these things.
Oh my God, don't cry, because I nearly cried.
You did so good, though.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Daddy's Girl. This was with Debika. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.